Hello there, Shortcuts. This is Stephen here. Hope you've got some good listening in over the last few weeks. I know I have. I'm going to be talking about some really cool records tonight, as always. This is list one for the price list, which will go out 9 p.m. Sydney, Australian Eastern Standard Time on Wednesday, July 31st. If you would like to be on this mailing list, then drop me a line, shortcutsrecordsaus@gmail.com. Now, this is the thrash metal, pop, disco, and rock selection. It's a little bit different this week. I've got a few records at the top here that are really special that I'm going to spend a bit of time on. And I have a whole slew of $30 records at the end that are superb that I managed to pick up from the Japanese crew in their end of financial or end. They had a sale in June, and I just got a bunch of really cheap, really high quality records, and I'm going to pass them on to you guys. So watch out for those at the end. There's some great titles. Now, how and where to start? This list cried out to be started by this record. This is the European first press of Master of Puppets from 1986. Now, I am in possession of the UK first press, the European first press, and the 45 RPM double record from 1987. This is the merch sheet that came with that record and the details of the European tour that kicked off in Dublin in the SFX on September 14th and concluded in the Zwolle Aardschok Festival on October 26th. This also, of course, has the inner in superb condition, and the record, classic record, is in fantastic condition. This is the European First Press Music for Nations release. Now, before I talk about the record, I am going to talk a little bit about some of the presses at the time. Now, the UK first press of this record has, I think, a bit of a problem. It's cut too quiet. You have to really crank it to and for obvious reasons, this is music that you really want to crank. The European press is a lot more bassy. It's a little bit louder. I think it's better. And so therefore, this is the record that I've selected to put to this club, because I will only put the good stuff to you guys. So many of you will know this record. Dropped toward the end of 1986 and probably arguably kicked off a new genre, didn't it, really? I mean, it's a legendary record for reasons. I love the sleeve. That is a really great metal sleeve, one of the all-time greats. And then, of course, celebrating the live band on the back sleeve, which is always tinged with a little bit of sadness because, you get Cliff Burton here on the back, and we all know that Cliff passed away shortly after the release of this record. And so his legacy really hangs over this record. You know, for example, that he was the driving force behind Orion, the instrumental on this record, which of course bears the famous bass solo that he plays. So I am not an across-the-board Metallica fan. I dislike the compressed and crunchy sound that they evolved to as the 90s progressed. But up until then, they're a really interesting and intriguing band for any music fan, even if, thrash metal isn't your genre. This album is it's a weird one for me in that I would never put it on any of my lists as my favorites of all time, but I listen to it a lot in terms of just picking a track here and there when I've got the house to myself and I can really crank it. And it has a crazy crunchy balls out energy which is impossible to ignore. But it also has moments of transcendental beauty, which is the weird, real anomaly and weirdness about Metallica. So for me, the title track, Master Puppets, as is typical, quite a long and methodical track that they work through. But then it breaks out into this glorious guitar solo that is played by James Hetfield, which is one of the first, if not the first, guitar solos that he played on Metallica record. And it's interesting when you listen to it, and this is, if you've ever seen Metallica live, they play this in every show. I remember reading it. I think it's their most played live track. They debuted it a few months or a few weeks even after they recorded the album, and it's been a staple ever since. And it is hugely dramatic. It has, really kind of crunchy, doomy crescendos, but it has this beautiful guitar break in the middle, which is amazing. And you can tell where James stops and Kirk Hammett kicks in, because there's this beautiful melodic guitar solo. There's a little bit of a pause, a little bit of kind of chunking and the kind of typical riffage, and then Kirk Hammett takes off with another one of his 15 million notes a minute guitar solos. And it sounds great, and it really does. As a sad Bowie fan, I've always been tickled by the fact that Leper Messiah, which is one of my favorite tracks in side 2, was inspired by lyrics from Bowie's Ziggy Stardust. The lyrics are I don't know, more thoughtful than might typically be for bands at this time. And Hetfield's vocals, they're not, because you don't get the screaminess that came in the 90s, and you also don't get the doomy throat singing that's completely unintelligible. You cannot say. His lyrics are kind of interesting. I do agree that over the years I've kind of fallen out a little bit with Lars Ulrich's drumming, but at this point he isn't Pro Tools to death, and I like it. Of course, I think even the band themselves know, I think, that this is their best album, even if the Black Album sold a squazillion copies. This one's interesting because it didn't go any higher than kind of 29 or 30 in the UK charts, and even in the US charts, and even lower in the UK charts. So it was never, at the time, a commercial behemoth. But over time, it's one of those true grower albums, and it's become somewhat of a staple for those building out a vinyl collection. I hear all the time, have you got Master of Puppets? The thing about it is that the Australian Master of Puppets is a disgrace. It's awful. It really is. Therefore, the first presses from Europe, the UK, are much more desirable and therefore much more expensive. So this isn't a cheap record, but if you love Master of Puppets, that's as good a copy as you're ever going to see. All right, now for something completely different. This is one of my favorite discoveries from the last few years of enjoying music, and I'm going to show you both sleeves. The album is Giorgio Moroder's Son of My Father. Now, this is the Australian first press, and this is the US first press. Australia, US. Interestingly, the back of the US pressing is kind of what was selected for the Aussie. What's even more bizarre is the track lists are completely mixed up. I don't know why. So, for example, "Son of My Father" is the opening track on both albums, but "Automation" is track 2 on the US release and track 5 on the Australian release. Why is that? "Underdog" is track 3 on Australian and track 4 on the US release. It's just bizarre. Why do I love this album? So they both sound, to me, I can't tell any difference between them. I'm just going to keep the US one because I think the track listing is it just kind of works. It's the one I'm used to. But this Aussie is hen teeth rare, and it sounds great, and it's a wonderful album. Giorgio Moroder, who, born in Italy, became, I guess, the godfather of disco. But in this period, this I think it's 1972. He is making glam pop. There's no other word for it. This track, "Son of My Father," he originally recorded it in German, and then put an English vocal over the top of it, and then the song became a hit for, I think it was a band called Chicory Tip or Chicory Tap. I can't remember. In the UK, it went to number 1. But the Moroder original is wonderful. The whole album is filled with these quirky, Eurocentric, kind of off-piste pop songs, but slathered in synthesizer, which, of course, in 1972 was quite revolutionary and also really difficult to do. Programming those devices was an incredibly skilled and time-consuming process. And it's all over everything here. And even to the extent of the final track, "Tears," 2 minutes and 20 seconds of genius, sampled by DJ Shadow in his classic debut album, Introducing, which probably one of the great electronic albums of all time. But Moroder was the person leading the charge with synth pop. Look, I think there's 10 records, there's 10 songs in this. I love all 10. I think it sounds amazing on vinyl too. It's so squelchy and rich and thick and funny. There are times I'm listening to this and I cannot help but smile. It is an absolute feel-good joy of a record. So, different to Master of Puppets, but in my mind, equally as amazing as Master of Puppets, and that's what's wonderful about music. I love this record. Paul Ballot was a partner, kind of like his partner in crime on this record. And I'm mentioning Paul and Giorgio because the next album that I'm going to talk about is probably the classic example of where they went to and how they conquered pop. To me, this next record is one of, if not the best pop double LPs ever. It's the first time I've had it on the list. I've been looking for a cracking copy for ages. I have found a pristine copy. You're going to be so happy. What an album this is. This is the Japanese first press of Bad Girls by Donna Summer. Look at this gatefold. Absolutely spectacular. Look at this. What an album. Now, what's the link? Produced by Giorgio Moroder and Paul Ballot, both of them together. Now, they formed a relationship with Donna Summer in kind of 74, 75, shortly after "Son of My Father" came out, and "Love to Love You Baby" and "I Feel Love" just became, I guess some of the biggest hits of the 70s and maybe even of all time. But this album, which I think was 1978, this is where they smashed it out the park. Firstly, Donna Summer is amazing. It's beautiful, hot, crazy, brilliant. And so this album was arranged in quite an interesting way. So the opening salvo is kind of harder edged, four to the floor. So, the opening track, Hot Stuff, became massive and won the Grammy that year for best rock vocal, even though this is one of the great kind of disco divas. I don't think Hot Stuff is rock in any way, but she beat out an all white category at that time, and Carly Simon and others, Ricky Lee Jones, and a black woman kind of just being amazing. And I love this album. So it's one side quite hardcore, kind of four to the floor. The next side two, is more Marauder inspired disco, and this is the one that you put on when you just want people to boogie. Side three is more kind of ballads, and side four is the Moog synthesizer driven pop that it kind of harkens back a little bit more to Sons of My Father, but is very inspirational and sampled all over the shop in hip hop for, decades afterwards. I love this album. Donna Summer, Bad Girls. And that Japanese first press is the one I have on my shelf, and it is bonkers good. That's it on the Casablanca label. Hot Stuff, Bad Girls. Dim All the Lights. What a tune that is. Brilliant stuff. So, after that, I've got two Beatles albums that I want to call out as two of my favorite Japanese presses that I've found with Obi. So this is the 76 pressing of Let It Be, the final released Beatles album, but not the final one they recorded, as all you kind of Beatles aficionados will know. Sounds spectacular, fantastic condition. Love the Obi on this with the flag. If you haven't got a really good Let It Be, that's as good a Let It Be as you're never gonna need another copy. And similarly, this one of the more underrated but enjoyable Beatles albums, Magical Mystery Tour. Now, this is the 74 press, which is the same one I have on my shelf, and that is because I love the book. So the book is like an internal little added benefit, stills from the movie and etc. If you don't remember the track list for this, you get, Hello Goodbye, Strawberry Fields Forever, Penny Lane, All You Need Is Love. So you get some of the greatest singles that they ever had, and it's brilliant. The Beatles, Magical Mystery Tour, The Beatles Forever. Look at that. 1963 to 1969. That's all they were around for. And here we are in 2024, still talking about them with reverence. It's pretty amazing. Okay, there's a couple here that are going to be around the $40 mark. And then I'm going to run you through all the $30 records. So a bunch of you have picked this up already. This is the Japanese first press of Nebraska, Bruce Springsteen. A departure in some respects, of course, from his more, I guess his more bullish style, but this acoustic record sounds wonderful. Japanese first press. Look at this. Stevie Nicks, Belladonna, featuring the wonderful duet with Tom Petty, Stop Dragging Your Heart Around. My favourite sounding Abbey Road. This is, for those of you who need to look it up, AP8815. Just go and look at the reviews, and they're right. It sounds incredible. So there's three kind of staples, Nebraska, Stevie Nicks, and that pressing of Abbey Road is great. I think I got three of them, so if there's any out, just let me know. But then the next slew of records are all $30, and so I'm just gonna go through them. I had to start with this. Look at this for a trifecta. Look at this. Super Trooper, Arrival, and Voulez-Vous, all in mint condition with OBs, all spectacular. $30 each. Man, the Doobie Brothers Stampede. I have had a number of Doobie Brothers albums over the last kind of month or so. They've been putting them in the box. And I picked a copy of this one up because I think this record is fantastic. And the Japanese record, I had a Mo-Fi copy of this. And I tell you what, I think the Japanese first press is better. And it's only $30. What about the Japanese first press of 461 Ocean Boulevard? Well, alongside Slow Hand, Clapton's greatest record. Let's just say Layla and Assorted Love Songs is clearly his masterpiece, but how much of that is Duane Allman? I think quite a lot. What about this? Don't Shoot Me, and the piano player, Elton John. Again, hard cardboard gatefold, Japanese first press, and comes with an absolutely pristine copy of the book that is in this. And it is such a weird book. Look at this. Look at Elton. There he is on the front. There's some other weird things in here I have to show you. Look at this stuff. It's just brilliant. And it's in perfect condition. There he is. What is going on there, Elton? What is going on there, my friend? All right. One of Elton's better records, Japanese hard cardboard gatefold. Now I have a record that's quite personal to me. This was, I wish I could still say was one of my father's favorite records. This is The Gambler, Kenny Rogers, Japanese first press with OB. I know many of you have told me you picked up this record and been blown away by how good it sounds. I know. Roxy Music, Avalon, the Japanese version of this is wonderful. What about the best of Simon and Garfunkel, complete with OB in wonderful condition? And finally, the Rolling Stones, Emotional Rescue, complete with the poster. And the poster is, and you're going to have to trust me on this, bigger than me. It is massive and complete with poster, $30. There you have the list. Thrash metal, pop, glam, disco, country, and classic rock. I hope you enjoyed that. Hope you find something to explore. And keep your eye out on Wednesday, 9 p.m. if anything there catches your eye. Thanks for watching. Bye.